All right, welcome in Powers on Sports Podcast. It is Super Bowl week out in Glendale, Arizona. San Francisco, or not, sir, the Philadelphia Eagles against the Kansas City Chiefs. We are going to bring you a coach's perspective from our coach, our podcast analyst himself. He coached in this game several years ago in Super Bowl 47, San Francisco 49ers and the Baltimore Ravens, the famed Harbaugh Bowl, the first ever Harbaugh Bowl. Coach Jim Leavitt joins us, going to give us his perspective. Coach was the linebackers coach for the 49ers during that Super Bowl, and we're going to get all his perspective on that Super Bowl preparation, all the hype and hoopla, and then a little game preview. Welcome in, Coach.
Oh, it's good to be back. We haven't been together for a while now.
Yeah, I know it's been a couple of weeks. So I hope you had a good New Year's, and I saw looked like you had a good time during Gasparilla. Had a little fun during Gasparilla.
Well, I did. I ran into Brady Breeze, who is living close to me right now. He played for me at Oregon, safety, and the NFL was with Detroit, and ran into him, and that was kind of fun. And ran into a lot of people. It was a lot of fun.
So it's a fun event. If you those of you not in the Tampa Bay area, it is kind of our Mardi Gras Fest like event here in Tampa, here called Gasparilla. So it's an awesome event. If you're ever down here during Gasparilla, I definitely. All right, one question: Do you have any players in the game from any of your stops? Oregon? Any guys in the game?
I don't. That's a good question because I haven't gone back on the rosters and really looked at them.
Yep.
I guess I would be surprised if there wasn't somebody that I had either been involved,
recruited.
I don't know, but I'm glad I didn't even think about looking that up because there could be somebody on practice squad or somebody that I'm very familiar with. So we'll see.
I know Kansas City has that Trent McDuffie kid from Washington. You probably played against him, cornerback. I think he's a corner from Washington. I think he was a pretty high pick for Kansas City. I'm trying to think of any Oregon guys. I can't think of any Oregon guys from a couple years back. So you might who knows?
Well, the only person Nate Allen used to play for the Eagles. He did, a number of years ago, who played for me at South Florida. Yep. But there were a couple, but it's been a number of years now. So,
yep.
But I'm going to look at the rosters and see. That's a good question.
So, Coach, when he was with the 49ers, he coached two elite all-pro linebackers, Navarro Bowman and Patrick Willis. If you're a football fan, you remember those guys. Just talk about those two guys. I mean, what professionals those guys were, and talk about how great of players they were just in their general career in general.
Well, they were great players. It was amazing to me that they were physically so gifted, but they were mentally astute, and they were so good at their preparation. And they wanted to be great. They expected to be great. And we talked about in the meetings all the time, when, like after a game, people would come up to them and say, "You played so great, Pat, Navarro, you did such a great job." And I used to grab them in the meeting rooms. I said, when people say that to you, they're acting as if that's very special. I said, you got to understand that if you're going to be the best in the game, that's just who you are.
Yeah.
And it's not unusual to play great every game.
Yeah.
And talked about it a lot, and Pat and Navarro were great players and did a good job. And then when Vic Fangio, who just joined the Miami Dolphins,
right,
when he didn't want to mess with the outside backers, I always grabbed Aldon Smith.
I forgot you had Aldon as well. He was a tremendous pass rusher and linebacker.
And Ahmad Brooks had those two. So, we had four linebackers that were really good. And, so I'm excited about Vic going down to Miami Dolphins. I think that's a pretty neat little deal. And, it was interesting in the Super Bowl. It's amazing how most coaches never had that opportunity. I was in the NFL for 4 years, went to 3 NFC championship games and 1 Super Bowl. So I was very fortunate. And Vic Fangio was in 23 years and had never been to a Super Bowl.
Wow.
So
that was my first question to you. What was the feeling you had as a kid from Dixie Hollins High School, quarterback, knowing that you committed your whole coaching life to coaching? when you won the NFC Championship and damn, I'm going to the freaking Super Bowl?
Oh, it was a special feeling. It was very powerful to really. I was very humbled by it. I was overwhelmed by it, and all I wanted to do is do the best job I could to prepare my guys to win. Because you don't go to the Super Bowl to lose, certainly. And it came down to that poor officiating calls we've said through the year.
We're going to get to that.
Michael Crabtree, he was interfered with. Otherwise, I'd have a Super Bowl ring. So,
did your coaching staff, did Coach Harbaugh and the staff, did you guys do something special as a coaching staff celebrating that night, just to reminisce, saying, damn, we're freaking going to the Super Bowl as a coaching staff?
Well, I don't remember that, honestly. I remember on the field, we beat the Atlanta Falcons on it was a great game. Right at the end of the game, Navarro Bowman knocked down a pass to solidify the win.
Tony Gonzalez, intended for Tony Gonzalez on fourth down. I remember it.
And, I had a lot of my family was there. And I can remember because it was, close to Tampa. I'm in Atlanta.
Yep.
And I remember really, really feeling incredible after that game and going to see my family. And when we were going to the Super Bowl, I think we flew back right away. So I don't remember really any celebrating because we were on task. We had to prepare for the Ravens and, want to do all we could to win that game.
Now, was that a 2-week buffer or a 1-week buffer in the Super Bowl?
It was 2 weeks.
Okay.
It is now. And, we had in New Orleans, we played New Orleans and, I only went out, French Quarter along the, the strip or whatever you call it. I only went out one day. I had 2 weeks and all I did was look at film. We practiced. I was looking at film and we looked at so much film. And I remember my tips and reminders. Usually before a game, you'll give tips and reminders out. It might be 5 pages, 6 pages, 7 pages, some diagrams, some indicators that you really want to make sure your players are understand or aware of. I had 16 pages.
And one of the reasons I would guess was it was Harbaugh versus Harbaugh, so they knew each other so well. That you guys they've discussed every scheme, every offense, defense that they run together probably. And so the for you as a coach to try to find that little edge schematically was probably the heart of what your study habits were those 2 weeks, right?
Well, you had 2 weeks, first of all, so you had time.
Right.
Which was probably not good for me because, you don't want to give them too much information because they're not going to process it all. But most of those 16 pages, a lot of it, I drew diagrams, things that it wasn't just written information, things they could look, see a formation, see a play, and identify that, hey, listen, when they run, when they get in this formation, this set, these are the plays that they normally run,
right.
Pass, run. And, so much formation orientated by field position.
Right.
Had in the red zone, an example, which we called red zone to 15-yard line in, if they were in double flanker or pro trips or twin trips open or spread or empty, just my point is a formation.
Right.
Hey, these are the plays you're going to see in this part of the field most of the time.
Right.
So we really identified things by formations and then down distance, third and short. Mm-hmm. What are their favorite plays? Third and medium, third and long, first, second down. What do they mainly want to do? What is their theme? And those are the things you really want to try to get across to your players.
Prep week, that week you guys were in San Francisco, the week before you travel, when you had kind of probably practice a couple times. Talk about all the first day or two. Who did you invite to the Super Bowl? Because players get tickets, players who handle all that stuff the first couple of days. Who did you invite to the Super Bowl that week?
Well, I felt like I never knew, like Vic hadn't been to the Super Bowl in 23 years. And, here I had the opportunity. I didn't know if I'd ever be back.
Right.
So I didn't sell the tickets. I gave them all out to my family, my wife,
Okay.
Her came down. I had a real good friend named Mel Klinghoffer. He was the best man at my wedding.
Very good.
I got him a ticket and a couple other friends. Family, my brothers, cousins, those people.
Mm-hmm.
I gave all the tickets out. I had, I don't know if you have 20. I don't know how many you have, but I used them all.
There you go. That was my talk about the week of practice. Obviously, most people talk about how most teams will use that first week to put in their game plan and do most of the prepping. What were the things you would stress to your guys? Obviously, you were dealing with all pro players. Were you more about fundamental, just reminders, fundamentals? How did you use that first week to prep your guys, your linebackers for the game plan?
Well, I didn't worry about fundamentals because we're in our 24th week of the season.
Yeah.
And these guys are on pros, they're not, I mean, you're always going to work in practice on some individual drills, cut blocks and things.
Yep.
Just their steps and their, basic stance to start drills. But mostly is team stuff, 7-on-7 throwing, team oriented things. We tried almost like a bowl game. We wanted our game plan in there, 3 or 4 days before we played,
right,
as best we could, because all the distractions when you get there for Super Bowl.
Yep.
You got to be careful because the media has their time limits on certain players, and it's there's a lot of distractions that you got to be very careful and you got to be concerned about. Even these grown men,
So you get to New Orleans, of all places, New Orleans, a big party town. It's not like coming to Tampa or some other places where there's not as much night-like activity. How much did you and the coaching staff and Coach Harbaugh stress to the guys? Hey, I'm not trying to tell you what you can and can't do, but don't get yourself in a bad situation at night.
It's interesting because these are guys that it's different. They're playing a Super Bowl. They know they might never be there again, and they want to win. It's not like college kids, but we've all heard the stories of different players are getting ready for Super Bowl and things happen. So we those things were stressed, but man, you would think these guys were pretty. They're so focused and so wanting to play great that I know I wasn't very concerned about those kind of things. Not like when I was a head football coach in college.
Talk about Coach Leavitt at Media Day. Did you get to experience Media Day? Like I'm sure, like they put every coach and every player in a little booth for that 1 hour. How did Coach Leavitt enjoy Media Day?
I did. When I was let go at South Florida, we all know there was a lot of drama about that, and a lot of all the media people were asking me about all that. It kind of reflected back to. The last season I was at South Florida, we won 9, won our bowl game, and beat Florida State up there, and some really good things. And so a lot of things were brought up.
Okay.
All these years, and now you're in the Super Bowl. How do you feel? But I didn't think about those kind of things. I didn't think about anything but trying to prepare my guys to win a Super Bowl. It's always on my mind. So, but a lot was brought up about, just about my career and what had happened in my career and all those things. It was kind of interesting. And yes, I had a lot of time with the media before the game.
So the Super Bowl, unlike most road trips that you take in the NFL and college, you're in another city for 7 or 8 days. How did you guys handle just being away from your facility, just not the normal access, the easiness of things that were easy to access when you're in the 49er building in Santa Clara? How was that being on the road in New Orleans in a hotel? I'm sure you guys would you guys use the Saints? Did you use the Saints facility in Tulane?
No, I mean, we were, I believe we were at the Marriott, and we set it up as if it was our home office. We had a great setup, and we were used to doing that. We traveled. I mean, I remember when we went from San Francisco to play New York Jets, and we stayed in in Ohio.
I got
you. at a Holiday Inn, and we set it all up as our headquarters.
For the week.
Used to doing that.
Okay.
I had a great setup. I had my own office, had the grease boards. I had a great setup for film. We had great setup for meetings. I mean, honestly, it was, you're going to be there 2 weeks or however long we're there. This is a Super Bowl, for goodness sakes. You're going to have a great setup.
Does the NFL go over the top as far as taking care of the teams to make sure they have every need they can think of? Anything that you pop up that, hey, I could use one of these, that the NFL or the organization takes care of it for you?
Well, I don't know what the NFL does with all that. I know that the 49ers took care of us.
There you go.
We really needed, we had. There wasn't anything that we lacked, for an organization. They were pretty good, I thought.
All right, talk about the Saturday night before the Super Bowl. Could you sleep? Were you able to get to sleep? How nervous? The anxiety of knowing tomorrow I could be a freaking world champion.
To be honest with you, I don't remember.
Okay.
I'd love to give you this big story that, I stayed up all night or I slept good or what. I don't remember.
Okay.
I do remember this. I remember the day of the game. When the game started, I remember that it was just like any game to me.
Okay.
I had to be on task. I was signaling in the defenses to Pat Willis. Vic Fangio was our defense coordinator. He would give me the call, and I would have to either talk it through to Pat or signal it in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like any game from that standpoint. Now, before the game.
Pre-game routine, yes. All the glitter and glamour.
And I wasn't aware of that. So I couldn't do a lot of the drills that I did.
Okay.
But even before that, I came out, and you remember the shooting at Sandy Hook?
Yep.
Well, there's a lot of kids that were there to sing.
Wow.
And I remember vividly having my headphones down. I went in the middle of these kids, and I just smiled. And I said, now, you all sing really good at halftime. You sing really good today, okay? And they said, yes. Later on, I was told that's who that was.
That's
and
great.
That was pretty emotional for me.
Sure.
And then right when I was talking to those kids, Beyonce walked by me.
Wow.
And I turned, and Beyonce was about a foot from me. And I thought, that's kind of cool. So those things were a little different. You don't always see Beyonce or
right.
Those kind of things. So, and those kids, I remember that a lot. And then obviously during the game, we might be getting ahead of ourselves a little bit, but during the game, the power went out. We were getting beat pretty good. And then when the power went back on, I think I remember they returned a touchdown all the way on a kickoff return. And then we just lit fire. We came alive.
So let's get to that. So that was the big controversy in that game was, if everybody remembers, the power in the Superdome goes out. How long was it? Wasn't it like 20 or 30 minutes, or was it how long was the delay?
It was a good 20 minutes, if I remember correctly. I remember being on a knee watching the Ravens. They were all partying and laughing, and I was pretty down because we were getting beat pretty good. And I kind of went by myself, at the around the 30-yard line or so, and just got on a knee and just,
So you guys all just chilled out on the bench. You didn't really go inside. You didn't go back inside. You stayed out there.
Stayed out there. Yeah.
Okay.
And it took time to turn the lights back on and everything, but then right away they got a big play on the kickoff return. But then we just played. We really played well, and like I said, you have to watch the game. You watch replays. I should have a Super Bowl ring.
So just to remind everybody, the scores, it's late in the game, 34-31 Baltimore. The Niners are driving inside the 10-yard line. And was it a fourth down play? It was a fourth down fade. You guys, Colin Kaepernick throws a ball to Crabtree in the end zone. No call, very controversial, whether it's an interference or not. No call. And the Baltimore Ravens end up winning 34-31. Just the finality of a situation like that. How sickening is that knowing you're one play away theoretically from a Super Bowl championship?
Well, as a kid, I'd always watched the Super Bowl, and I always saw the confetti come down, and I always thought I would never want to be on that losing side, and I was. And the confetti came down everywhere, and it was surreal. I remember the finality of it all. That the season was over, that we didn't win, and it was a very, very empty feeling. And I remember walking in the locker room. I remember Coach Harbaugh being extremely upset with the owners over the call.
Right.
And it felt like they really, it wasn't right.
It went the wrong way. Yep. Right.
Looking at Pat Navarro, I had a hard time going up to them. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to say to them because they were hurting so bad, and I finally just went up and just put my hand on their shoulders, and I didn't really say anything. It was difficult.
Yeah, that's you hear the stories of just the pain and the suffering in these losing locker rooms, because like you said, for many of these guys, it's the only chance in their life they're going to go to a Super Bowl and possibly be a world champion. Same with coaches. I mean, hey, you guys coach a long time, but most coaches only get one, if at best, one, maybe two opportunities to go to a Super Bowl or a national championship type situation as a college coach.
Yeah, I would say most never get there.
Yeah.
Small percentage get there.
So you get back to saying, how long did it take you to not get over the game, but to where you felt, I mean, I know it probably never goes away, but how long did it take you to say, golly, we freaking just got, we should be world champions here?
Well, you move on. You just do. It's, you get ready for scouting, going to the combine, everything else, because it's late. And, I don't remember exactly all my feelings then. I knew I was disappointed we didn't win. That's for sure.
Do they give you any kind of memorabilia for being a runner-up? Does the NFL provide any kind of
championship ring?
Okay.
And you get some things being in the Super Bowl, and doesn't mean a whole lot if you don't win,
right?
But I take that back.
It's a hell of an accomplishment.
Yes, it did mean a lot to me that I was able to be in the Super Bowl, and that it did. It did.
Probably all the hard work for all the years you did, all the work you've done. Again, you've had a very accomplished career as a head coach and assistant coach, both at both college and the NFL level. Just the hard work's got to be for you internally, saying, you know what, that's why I do all this work. For an opportunity like that.
No, it's true. And you're right. I through all the years I worked very hard, and I've been very fortunate. I've probably been more fortunate than most. I've been in some great games and some great accomplishments, really. And some, it's that was certainly one of them, to be in a Super Bowl.
Any fun moments you just remember from Super Bowl week? Just a like quirky fun thing that, like you said, the Beyonce standing a foot next to you on the field and just that kind of stuff. I mean, just those are the kind of the cool moments that a coach sometimes doesn't appreciate.
Well, I remember my wife's parents were in the stands, and I remember going up and talking to them before the game, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Having them there. But no, it's just, I just remember working very hard, and, just remember how I didn't want to leave any stone unturned. I wanted to do all I could to do the best I could to get those guys prepared. I never wanted to look back and wish I would have done more.
All right, last question, then we'll get to the little preview of this week. How many times after the game did you watch the game film?
I didn't. I didn't for a while.
Right.
Yeah, that's the truth. I mean, you know what? I think I did look back and grade it, but after that, I didn't really.
Yeah.
And I never saw the offensive play. I never saw the interference till later.
Yeah.
Because I was on the sidelines, you couldn't really see it. But later in some broadcasts, I saw it and I go, no wonder Jim was so mad. I said he definitely interfered. He wrapped the guy,
yeah,
crap to you all around with his arms.
Yeah. No,
It
that was.
wasn't even there wasn't even a gray area, you know.
I remember. That was obviously Joe Flacco and the Ravens win it 34-31. All right, so listen to the Powers on Sports podcast. We're talking to Coach Jim Leavitt. He was in Super Bowl 47 with the 49ers as their linebacker coach. He's been a head coach at the college level, been very successful, and he was very successful NFL assistant coach with the 49ers and Coach Harbaugh. Let's look ahead to the game Sunday, Philly and Kansas City. Give me a point or two about each team that you like, something you really like that both these teams do.
Well, they're both very, very confident. They both are going to definitely expect to win. They both have very, very accomplished quarterbacks. They both use very good tight ends. Their line of scrimmage is very good. I think it's a very even matchup. I mean, it really, really is. And I don't know. It's going to be a great game. I think I really do. And I kind of give the nod a little bit to Kansas City only because of Mahomes.
Okay.
The ankle is always a big thing, but he's got 2 weeks now to prepare.
Yep.
And I just think I just give him the edge a little bit, as a quarterback in this game.
Do you know Spagnuolo at all or Jonathan Gannon?
I've met him, but I don't know him.
Okay.
I mean, they're great. Both coaching staffs done a great job. I mean, it's as even as you can get. There's an awful lot of hype around the Eagles.
Right.
A lot of energy with the Eagles. The line of scrimmage with the Eagles, I really like.
That. To me, that's a key to the game: is the offensive and defensive line. How can Kansas City handle that?
And nothing would surprise me in this game. No, I'm just telling you.
Yep.
I don't know who I'd bet on. I really don't. I'm just saying a little edge, maybe Kansas City because of Mahomes. But man, as a team, I would have to lean towards Eagles.
Talk about the difficulty. I know you've had to coach against this for many years at the college level. The RPO game that Jalen Hurts is going to bring, that Philadelphia relies on heavily. How just defending that at the pro level is not as easy as it is at the. Maybe it is. I don't. You tell me. Is it easier at the pro level because of the hash marks? Is it harder? Talk about the RPO game and Jalen Hurts, that matchup versus that Kansas City defense.
Well, the one way to stop the RPOs is man coverage.
Okay.
Because you use the play action, your linebackers, depending on the offensive line, how good they are at coming out at a hard step low, you're going to lose those linebackers. So if you're running a lot of zone, there's a real void in there. That gives the quarterback some opportunity. The way I've always defended it is to run man, quite a bit of man, get people right over top of those seams and be right on people.
And Philly has two tremendous wide receivers, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. So that's going to be a challenge for that Kansas City secondary.
No, it's going to be, but I think Hurts, the fact he can run, not that Mahomes doesn't, but Mahomes with that ankle probably not going to. I think you got to watch Hurts running maybe more in this game than he has. And they've got a number of quarterback run plays and that I think that they'll use more in this game than they have. Not that they haven't, they already have. And I think that might be interesting to see how that plays out, see how well the Kansas City defends the running game with Jalen Hurts at quarterback.
And then you look on the Kansas City side, obviously. Yep, go ahead.
He can run and on third downs,
Yes.
And inside the red zone towards the goal line.
And then you got the dominant offensive line of Philadelphia that's just unbelievably playing well. That's just creating these seams. And Kansas City's got a good defensive line. And obviously Chris Jones is an all-pro player. But if Kansas City's defensive line cannot play close to even, it could be a long day for that Kansas City defense with the running game.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like the Eagles, except Mahomes just, he's been there and awfully good. Not that Hurts isn't. So it's tough, And you sit there and think they're going to play in Arizona. I don't know what the weather will be like. I know they've got kind of a closed type roof and
Yep.
do some things there. I've been there, but it'll be a great atmosphere. It'll be really something. It was interesting, right down the road from me, Gary Sheffield
Yep.
has his home, and I was on a golf cart with my girls today. I ran right into Gary. He's flying out. He said he was flying out tomorrow, I think, to go to the Super Bowl, do some golfing and do some things there. And it was fun. Just, it kind of got me excited thinking I might want to go to the Super Bowl. It might be fun, especially this one. But my point is just the excitement behind this game. There's a lot of excitement.
And the coaching, you got a young coach in Sirianni. He's a second year, pretty young guy. And then you got the guy who's been there a million times, Andy Reid. How much do you think that's an advantage to Coach Reid that he's been to the Super Bowl? He knows kind of what to expect, or do you think that's kind of a little bit overplayed?
Well, I think it's an advantage. I really do, but I don't know how much.
Right.
I mean, when you get to this point, both teams are so good. And they've overcome so much to get to where they are. The confidence level is so high that I don't know how much it's going to be a factor.
All right, so it sounds like you like Philadelphia in the game, or do you like who you like? Give me his prediction here, Coach.
I would say Kansas City by a field goal.
Okay. All
but
right.
You don't know.
We'll you're right. And weird. And what's amazing about these Super Bowls, as you know, some of the most obscure players on the roster become heroes. A special teams guy, a backup linebacker, a long snapper, recovers a fumble. And the star players do goofy things sometimes in these humongous games where it's the backup kind of guy or the third or fourth receiver makes these big plays.
Right. Yeah, it's I mean, there's so many good players in these teams and that have been so productive this year. So it's I'm not giving you a lot of breakdown on
that's all right.
Schematics of the defense on each of them and what I think. I just think you got Hurts who has definitely quarterback run plays, and I see that as an advantage. But then you have Mahomes, who's just so artistic in his play. I mean, he just moves the chains, and I think in the end, the experience he has, I think is going to come out on top.
Last question, I'll get you out of here. How many new things did you guys bring out into the Super Bowl? Whether it's a defensive call, whether it's something you hadn't seen from the Ravens, were there a handful of new things, or did you guys just kind of go with your bread and butter calls when it comes to playing defense or things that you saw with the Ravens?
Oh, there were some things that were different that you wanted in your back pocket if you needed them. So there was, and Vic Fangio did a good job with that, with us, and so we definitely wanted to we didn't want to get in that game and not have answers, and we worked very hard at that, even though the scores were high, 34-31, but we worked very hard at trying to make sure we had everything in case they did this or that.
Right.
And we had answers. And then we also looked at different pressures that we were going to give during the game.
Well, no matter what anybody can say, Coach, you are a Super Bowl coach. I know you don't have the ring on your finger like you probably should, but in my eyes, I mean, nobody will ever take away that you've coached in the Super Bowl, and that's a hell of an accomplishment. You should be very proud.
I am. And it was nice being a part of that group. They were a lot of fun.
Well, Coach, thanks for the time, the great insight of what it's like in the locker room, on the field, pregame, everything. And Coach, I saw Beyonce at the Grammys last night. I'm sure she remembered Coach Jim Leavitt.
Right. Well, thanks, Jason. Appreciate it.
Have a great night, Coach.
All right. We'll see you.